Well, I have to start with Abraham Amaliba for AM Talk. And he's a legal practitioner. He's a member of the NDC. And thanks for joining me, Abraham.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, hopefully he will also be joined before we come to a close on the discussions on AM Talk by Emmanuel Tremantin Ngejako. He's a member of parliament for Ayawaso West Wagon. And we have to start with a topic. And we're hearing that a number of things have been ongoing. Apparently, there's supposed to be the ongoing or a likely start of the Committee of Parliament that is expected to start the probing into the allegations of bribery that may have occurred within the appointment committee to be open to the public. I don't know what you make of that and in what form it should be taken.
Well, let me start by saying good morning to your viewers across the length and breadth of this country. It's a dicey issue regarding the committee. It's good a committee has been put in place to investigate all these allegations, but the question is, should it be a committee from the House of Parliament again? Now, I'm not surprised that the committee is about to start its work, because when I investigated, my understanding was that because the chairman of the committee himself, an appointee, was to appear before the committee, they were waiting for him to appear before the committee before he starts his work. So you see how convoluted the whole thing is.
Well, I get your point.
So it begs the question of whether the committee can do a proper job. You mustn't just see that there is likelihood of bias or there's the likelihood that the person will not do his work. If you have hints that this committee's work can be compromised, it is enough to cast doubt on the work of the committee. We will not know whether Joe Garte, having gone to the committee and that he was passed by the committee, he will also return a similar favor to these people. And don't forget that those who are cited are the leadership of the committee, Joe Garte, Muntaka, and Ejako. And so I didn't expect that a committee emanating from Parliament should be the one doing this.
Ideally, what would you have suggested? Simple.
Look, Shiraj. And they are ready to do it if only that, and I'm told that people have petitioned Shiraj. I just hope that that can give them the capacity to delve into the matter, even though Parliament is also looking at it. The difficulty is, if we actually want to get to the bottom of this matter, we should have given it to an independent organ.
Outside the legislature?
Outside the legislature. Because
that would have made it what?
More credible. It will give it legitimacy. It will ensure that people have confidence on whatever outcome is brought out. But now, what you are seeing is that one of the principles of rules of natural justice is being breached. You can't be a judge in your own matter. So I don't know why Parliament had to do this.
But let's take our minds back. When Anas undertook those investigations, he did. And of course, we know what is stipulated by law and what is mandated, what the president did, and now the Judicial Council, through the Chief Justice, they put together a body and they had to do the investigations. So is that more like the judiciary looking at its own case?
No.
Just sitting over its own matter?
In that one, you were not talking about leadership of the judiciary. So you could even look at that as an internal process used by the judiciary to deal with the matter. But if they were going to be prosecuted, that would have been done by the police administration who started the investigations. But this one was an internal matter, and the persons who were indicted were not the leadership of the judiciary.
And that's a distinction?
That's a distinction. But here you are talking about second deputy speaker, so highly placed. And you have Joe Garte, who just went through his committee now to investigate him. But I think that probably opening up this to the public through the television, you know, that's what people are calling, that this should be beamed live. And probably this is one sure way of ensuring that we all watch, we all see, and each day they sit, we will come here and discuss it, and they will be listening. They will know that people are not happy with the way they are going about the investigations. I'm sure this may, you know, make them, as it were, do a good job. But the members of the committee too have their own credibility to protect. One day, down the line, one day, their conduct in how they handle this matter would come back to either give them some pluses or give them some minuses. So apart from they being members of parliament, they should also understand that their own credibility is at stake. And probably with these two caveats, which is their own credibility and then also the issue of public beaming of the proceedings may assist in ensuring that there's fairness in the whole process.
But if you look at the whole narrative, the genesis of the narrative in itself, having 3 members of the minority who, of course, are members of the committee, differing from what perhaps the views of their leadership within the committee was, doesn't speak well of members who want to conform or to leadership lines, so to speak.
I think in every grouping and in every organization, there must be people within the organization who say that we want to fight acts that are unacceptable, be it corruption, be it bribery, be it people having ill motives. There must be people within who stand up and say, we would ensure that we expose this behavior. And I see the 3 members in that light. I am not by this saying that what they said was true, and I'm not by this saying that those who have been accused are also wrong, but I just think that this seeming confusion that you are trying to point out is the main reason why this matter must be gone into. Because it doesn't add up. How come that leadership says that didn't happen? Members said it happened. Some people are swearing Allah. Others are saying that they have witnesses. So if you have such confusion, in my view, it calls for a probe. And this is the probe that we have. This is where we have gotten to with the probe. They are going to start their work. Let's investigate it. Those who are found culpable will be punished. Those who might have lied or cooked up this must also suffer the punishment under their parliamentary rules. And I think that's a fair game. But I just think that within every society, you must have people who will say that never and never again. And don't forget, when you listen to the chief whip of the minority side, Muntaka, the impression is created that as if they've been taking bribes. That there was a committee, the meeting held, and they said that we are not going to take money from anybody. Why would a committee meeting to vet people even meet and take a stand on we are not going to take money from? So this, for me, the investigation should not limit itself to that one. It should expand, the investigation should be expanded to cover whether Parliament engages in such acts. Don't also forget that when there's a corruption perception index in this country, Parliament is among the first 3 or 4. That cannot be for a house where we are represented in that house.
There's an ongoing issue which has been reportedly widely by the media in the last 12 hours. It's a news coming from the presidency, which is saying that 208 cars have been accounted for at the Flagstaff House among the vehicle pool. following the change in government, and the Director of Communications at the presidency is said to have indicated that this was detected after an assessment of 5 car models in the carpool inventory of the Flagstaff House. And if you look at the breakdown, let me just break down for you just in case you don't know. In total, you look at the documents provided, it says you're supposed to have 196 Toyota Land Cruiser vehicles. You're supposed to have some Land Cruiser Prados, a total of about 73, and then Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, and other vehicles. And there are extreme shortages, and some of them seem to be very much unfathomable, so to speak.
Roland, you see, this story, when I heard it yesterday, I was struggling to believe it.
I don't get you. Why do you struggle to believe something that's coming from an authentic source like the Communication Bureau of the Presidency?
The reason, because when I listened to Eugene, the missing cars included the president's car, the car that the Land Cruiser that the president used, President Mahama used. It included that car. And that car, you know, is fitted with security gadgets. It's not just
it's not just an ordinary car.
It's not an ordinary car. It includes that car. Question to ask. There was a transition team from both sides,
which is still in place. I think they'll be they'll be rounding up.
So
according to the transitional law,
good. There's a transition team. And if there's a transition team, why did it take this long for them to come out with this? Let me just limit my submissions with the president's car. I'm sure if you are taking over an office, there are 2 things that you ask for: the office key and the car key. If you are taking over an office, the first 2 questions you ask your predecessor, if he's going, oh, where's the office key? Because you have to enter there to work. But where's the car key? Because you need to. So it's Nana Akufo-Addo, the president today, saying that his transition team did not ask President Mahama. In any case, which car did he, or that's a different car, which car did he use for the inauguration? I don't know. I didn't watch the program, so I wouldn't know. But let's assume that he might have driven his own car there. Would he drive his own car back? Because he was now president. So that car, and no ordinary person would go home with that car. Because its maintenance self, you can't maintain it. I'm saying that these are bulletproof Land Cruiser that was used by the president. And he said it includes that. This alone makes me cast doubt on his story. But once again, this calls for investigation. I know the tricks of the MPP. I know, and there's a certain what is it? Trend. When the president during his swearing-in plagiarized, and it was a topical issue, and that was an embarrassment for this country. What happened? They threw in President Mahama's residency to muddy the waters. When bribery matter came, my good friend Jaco is not here, his brother, when he was alleged to have bribed MPs, what did they do? They sent out Mahmoud Bawumia to go to his residence to throw out that matter to muddy the waters. Now, what is trending now? The blatant disregard for the laws of this country. And they went ahead to swear in Otiko Jaba. And you heard the discussions yesterday. It was all about the discussions on Otiko Jaba and her swearing in. What will they do? They will throw out this. I have given you a certain trend. And this will continue. Apart from them making government, the previous administration, their motive is to make the previous administration look bad. They also use some of these techniques to muddy the waters. Because for now, what we should have been talking as a people is the promises that they gave us.
Oh, but they just came into office.
You see, that is where I have a problem. Between Nana Akufo-Addo as president and Donald Trump as president, who was inaugurated first? Surely Nana Akufo-Addo. On the first day of Donald Trump, the promises he gave the people of US, he started implementing them. So what are you talking about? It just came. Didn't Donald Trump sign off an executive order that stopped people from entering into the US, but for the US Supreme Court, that overturned the whole thing? That is what you see in a man. If I ask you now, this change that we've had, can you feel it? Can you see it? What will you say? You say, you've just come. Aren't you hearing they contradicting each other? We will remove energy levies. We will not remove energy levies. We didn't say that we will pay DKM workers. Is it workers? Deposited.
Yeah, customers.
Whatever they are. My brother, we told the people of Ghana so. So we should have been discussing by now matters relating to their promises. At least, they said they were going to reduce light bill. They were going to reduce water bill. There are some of the things that you don't need to go to parliament on them. They could have started showing us signs of those things.
But we know that fuel and all those ones necessarily not straight away a government. The PRC determines what the tariffs are. We have the OMCs, the BDCs, and you know, and then the MPA, they put together all those tariffs based on what the trend is on the international commodities market, etc. So it's not a straightforward thing, don't you think?
Is it a case of Medofo Adadame? Didn't they know that these matters were out of their reach?
Is it not too early in the day?
Too early like what? I've given an example.
Yes, you have.
And I'm saying that let's see signs. Look, when you go to the trotro stations, people are saying that they don't see the change.
It's only a month into the administration.
And I've given you an example of another country. Look, when it's Massachusetts, we say the US. It's the US. When it's Massachusetts, we go there and take the example. Why are you discarding this example I have given? So I think that Ghanaians, and I agree with Nana Akufo-Addo as president, I agree. Even though those statements did not originate from him, we should begin to be citizens. And let's hold this government accountable onto their promises. Begin to question. And I've been reading UTAC, these students, this book allowance. I'm told that the MPP government is dragging its feet. NAT have indicated that it appears they are being forgotten. The promises they gave them, they should fulfill. Are you saying that all these people don't know that the MPP is 1 month old? But you gave promises. The people have entrusted the care into you. They will have to hold you accountable. And I say that some of these things, would you believe? So are they telling us that the president has stolen his car? President Mahama took away his Land Cruiser, the one that has the number plate has the crown of Ghana, has stolen that car.
The coat of arms.
The coat of arms. That the president has stolen that car, and that all the security gadgets in the car, he's taking that car away.
Now we're told that the president has to use his own 10-year-old BMW.
He wants it.
And still use his Prado.
He wants it. He's even living his private house. What's wrong? And he has converted the public road in front of his house as a private road. Isn't it? It's a fact. You've not passed there before. You've seen the police, they've barricaded that road.
You mean his Nima resident?
His Nima resident. So, it is not, I'm saying that, it is not because 208 cars have alleged to have been missing. And I don't believe that President Mahama has stolen that Land Cruiser, Prado, is that it? I know, Land Cruiser. I think it's a Land Cruiser. Fitted with gadget. I am contesting anybody who says that President Mahama stole that car, and that's why Nana Akufo-Addo.
And you are even saying that there are still people, officials around, they could have
yes
made those inquiries.
The transition teams are still there. They should have made those inquiries. And you can't find anywhere here that when they contacted the previous government size, they could not give explanation.
But we've had, for example, well, they are illegal though, and perhaps also unconventional means of collecting some of those allegedly vehicles from officials of the past government. We're told that some of those vehicles may be private vehicles belonging to those individuals, but we have many of those Land Cruisers and things around, so people will assume that perhaps it could be from the fleet of the pool.
Are Land Cruisers only meant for public office holders? No. The private person who is capable can buy a Land Cruiser. And there are private people all over who have Land Cruisers. The government should know what it is looking for before they go to people's houses. You must have the chassis number of the car, the number plate of the car, the number of the car. You must know what, you don't go about knocking at people's houses and rooms, asking them, do you have a Land Prado here? That's what they are doing. They went to James Ajeni Boate's house looking for a Land Cruiser. And I think that it's not professional. First and foremost, you must know that your fowl is missing first. You must know the color of your fowl. Then you must know that, your fowl did not sleep at home yesterday. Then you now go out to your neighbors and begin to ask them and describe, the fowl is a black fowl, it has white legs. But now, as they go around, what are they telling the people? I'm coming to see a Prado. I'm coming to see a Land Cruiser. What Land Cruiser? What is the chassis number? What's the number plate? Unprofessional. Simply depriving people of their privacy. And I think we are not a country that is interested in testing the laws. People, if this were in advanced countries, they would have stopped this. You know what they have? They only have a letter written by the chief of staff, laminated, like this letter, then they will laminate it.
Have they come to your house? You seem to know so well what they do.
I'm in the media, and
when
you call me here, you want me to tell you things that ordinary people want to hear. So, whereas you sleep 8 hours, I sleep less than that, so that I can get this information. So, you laminate, huh? You laminate. Who told you that laminated document is a court document?
That's a very savage response you just gave me.
Oh, is that it?
You don't know.
You just thought of it. Well, I've gone ahead with my submissions.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But you and me, we are friends.
Of course, we're friends.
So, you laminate something, a paper.
So that's what they are taking around.
That's what they are going around and showing people, laminated paper. Is the chief of staff a court?
That chief of staff
is it a court?
Letter. That's the chief of staff letter.
Is it a court? So people should question them. And indeed, what they are doing is promoting potential violence. Because when they come to me, I know that this chief of staff letter is not better than a T-roll. I will not allow them. Bloodshed. I will either be killed. Who has promoted the violence?
Fortunately, they won't come to your house.
I don't even have anything. Don't have anything. But so this is a government that says that it believes in the rule of law, full of lawyers, but their conduct.
But would you say that you would want proper investigations?
Oh yes.
Into
yes. This
because if really vehicles were on your communication platforms, the NDC communication plan, and then the ones that you belong to for
the legal,
and all that. Do you know of individuals that perhaps may have told you that some past officials may have been keeping vehicles?
No. Look, what I know is that, indeed, I am told that the president asked, before he left office with his ministers, he asked them all to return those. And look, it will be an act of fraud on the part of previous government officials. I belong to that government. But I'm telling them, if they are keeping it, will be an act of fraudulent act if they keep government vehicles. It will amount to stealing. That's naked stealing. Because they gave you the vehicle when you are occupying an office for you to use it for public purposes, public good. You are no longer there. Why are you keeping it? So I will be the first, and that's why investigations must go. Look, if it is discovered that a past government official has kept a state vehicle, call me here and see whether I'll defend that act. I won't defend that act. And that's why I'm sounding already my views across. That it will amount to stealing and fraud on the people of this country if past government officials still have these vehicles. But it appears there's no proper inventory at the presidency. They should put proper inventory. Who is a car assigned to? It must be, this is common. This is common. Who is driving GV 5560 13 or 14? It must be there, so that by now we would have gone to that person.
In the past transitions or the past transitional periods, and we've had that post-2000 and post-2008, we know that there are some discounted arrangements made as far as the pricings are for some of the vehicles, perhaps that are used by the officials so that they can have a handing over, a takeover. Has this been done within the transitional period?
Yeah, I think it's a law that or policy that exists and applies now. The four-wheel drives, you don't send them home. But the saloon cars, I'm told if you use them up to 2 years or so, then they would discount it and then sell it to you. So I'm sure they are not good. Their problem is the Land Cruisers and the four-wheel drives. Yes, and I think that there must be some investigations into this.
You don't think any past government official is keeping any?
I will be shocked, and I'll be the first person to put him out there in the public for people to chastise him. If up to now with this whole baloo and you are still keeping, then your intention is not a proper one. Your intention is to steal, and I will not come to your defense.
Well, we should say up to now, nobody has been named, a past government official has been named to be in possession or to be in possession of a vehicle that belonged to the state. Of course, we've had some encroachments on the household or properties of some past government officials or party officials of the NDC, but we've not been told that those cars that have been seized from their premises belong to the state or not. There's not been any formal communication on the subject, so we'll see how that goes. The other story we want to look at is the one that also has been running for the last 12 hours about the management of the National Service Scheme, having with immediate effect annulled the recruitment of new workers engaged in December 2016. And we're told that the annulment is on the advice of the newly appointed Minister for Education, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh. This was contained in a statement signed by the Acting Executive Director of the Secretariat, Yusuf Mustafa, and copied to majoronline.com. We're also told that there was an outsource of the whole recruitment exercise to one recruitment firm, Zomelo and Associates, and for which they were paid 100,000 Ghana cedis for the whole exercise. Your comment on this?
Am I surprised? No, I'm not surprised, because this is not the only group of people who have been sacked. They've sacked some police recruits. One took away his life, I think, 2 days ago. And
were they sacked, or the police recruits, they were asked to
do what?
They were asked to withdraw themselves from the police depot? That's sacked.
They sacked them. They sacked them. I have seen letters dismissing a dispatch rider at a Bost. I've seen a letter.
At Bost? A dispatch rider.
Who was? So what they do is to look at those who have been employed during the latter parts of the NDC era and begin sacking them. These are people who said they were coming to create jobs, and they are laying off people, and people are losing their lives. It is in their DNA. Buzier's regime. Apollo, is it 200 or Apollo 500?
Oh.
What is O? They sacked Ghanaian workers. Salah, an Attorney General. You might have heard it.
It's a typical case, yes.
It's a typical case. This is the kind of people we are talking about. The MPP.
Just because of this, you are citing?
Is it because 205, you say because if you are removed and you don't get a job to do and you are roaming the streets, that cannot be because. It can't be. These people went through the process. In fact, it was Zomelo and Associates. It's not as if even they were picked from the NDC headquarters. I think that what these people should do, they should sue the minister, his name is here, and sue the National Service Secretariat. Once they know that they went through the processes and they were qualified, it was advertised, you saw it. All these vacancies were advertised all throughout the country. But again, I blame ourselves. When we come to power as NDC, we joke with the power. This is what is happening to our people. Ghanaians who have been employed, then you go and you sack them. Ghanaians, and you say you are coming to give them jobs. So now these 205, where should they go now? I thought that by employing them, we have reduced the number of unemployed Ghanaians or youth in this country. So that when they come, they will not be dealing with 205 again. Now, this number has increased the number of unemployed men. There is no justification for this. And I'm telling you that even dispatch riders, I have seen that letter at Bost, if one go and ask. A lady was employed at a Ghana Free Zones Board. She's also been given a letter to leave. These are the type of things we are talking about.
If you look at the narrative, it looks as if that a number of people were employed into the civil service towards the last end, especially after the election.
And there's a reason for that. You notice that government had indicated that there was no financial clearance, in the sense that there was no money to pay, and they will not employ people without paying them. And if you Google now, it will tell you that Ghana's economy would grow this year by 7 to 8%. The Ministry of Finance then were able to, they saw that the revenues and incomes of the country were improving. So that's when they then gave financial clearance to institutions. They did some for the universities. They gave financial clearance for the universities. I'm wondering why they didn't sack the university lecturers. I'm wondering why. Because this recruitment was in most sectors of the economy. Police, you've sacked them. National Service, you've sacked them. And then why is it you've not sacked the lecturers who were also giving financial clearance? So we are in dire straits. The dollar is running. I thought that they said that it was the NDC that was mismanaging. The dollar is running like nobody's business.
Well, to make matters worse, they said Dr. Pesahwai also announced a 40% increment in allowances for National Service Scheme employees, which is to take effect this month, even though the provisional budget presented by the outgoing administration made no provision for such increments.
Well, I don't know whether the National Service personnel went on strike, a demonstration rather, but there was
2 days ago.
Okay, if they went, but I heard they were about to go. See,
yesterday, I think.
Yeah, and I think that they are being discriminated at because, according to them, apart from the increases to the National Service Scheme, there were also increases across board for workers. The workers one has not been frozen, but theirs has been frozen. The question is why? And if you look at the increment, it appears the workers' increment is even higher than this one. And these are only just few National Service people. The workers are more than the National Service, but you are not withholding that of the workers, and you are withholding. So for me, it's marks of discrimination. I think that what the government could have done was to call the National Service Secretariat or the service personnel and negotiate with them and renegotiate. When we inherited that scheme, the single spine, we didn't pay immediately. We renegotiated the commencement of the scheme. So you don't leave them the way they are doing.
Ultimately started in 2010.
Exactly. So you can renegotiate with them, call the executives together, and sit with them. I think that we are in difficult times. And
well, it's not doom and gloom for the 205 affected or newly recruited workers. We're told that according to a statement, the management wishes to advise persons affected by the decision to look forward to a new opportunity to have the staff recruitment properly carried out.
Mm-hmm. So you are taking somebody through some stress.
Who determines whether a situation is stressful or not?
If I know,
you're not a medical officer.
No, I know if you lose your job, there are three things. If you lose your job, you lose your property, and you lose your wife, definitely you go through some mental torture or stress. So you take them through this stress, and then you say, will all of them have the opportunity to be recruited? Will all of them? Because there are going to be more competition now. Somebody who didn't apply will now apply. So more people will now come in. So the chances are slim that they will get back onto the role. And I think it is not to make them look worse off and then try to say you rehabilitate them. You could have avoided this.
Is there a possibility that some of these recruitment may have been partisanly undertaken?
Well, if you first and foremost, if you advertise the vacancies through the net, open, you know, and all over the country, people go through the net and then apply. I do not think that you can't, because this is an improvement. In the previous recruitments, what people did was to send applications directly, and you may not even have the opportunity to even submit your application. But if they open it up, where people have to apply through the net, when you are in Bunkurugu Yoyo, you can do it. Tikobu Namawa, you can do it. Where is the partisan in here? I think you should be calling the Minister of Matthew Pogo Prempe, my good friend, to ask him why he carried out this. These were people who were in opposition and said they loved Ghana. This cannot be loving Ghana. This is discriminatory.
If you listen to the Deputy Executive Director for the National Service Scheme, it's because they want to make sure that due process is followed. So, that shows love for system.
So where in this process leading up, and I've told you through the internet application, so when they are going to start the process, are the applications going to come from heaven? Or what mode would they use? I think what you are even asking, the question you are asking whether it is not politically motivated, the employment. It is rather the dismissal which is politically motivated, the dismissal.
Now, we have two more issues to look at. It's about the national health insurance. And apparently we're told that service providers are owed to the tune of between 7 months and above. And this has been an incessant difficulty or challenge of the scheme over the last 4 or 5 years. And it's something that the government has been blamed for adequately not making sure the right people.
If you know the history behind the scheme and you know what the experts said about the scheme, the experts indicated that with the current premiums and the arrangement, will begin to have difficulties after the first 5 years of implementation. So these are the challenges that are now rearing their ugly heads. It behoves us, and for that matter, government, to now find supplementary ways of making the scheme work. Because these challenges they are talking about were told us some years back by experts, actuaries, who did work. So it's not surprising.
What did they say?
Oh, they said that after the first 5 years of implementation, we are going to face financial difficulties.
So we need to have a rethink about finance.
Yes, how to finance it. So it's not surprising. But the rethink is what I think we should be talking about, and how the government is to fix it. In our time, we had put together a committee headed by...
and they came out with...
Yes, I just want to... The head of the committee, there's some... He was previously in the PNDC days. Chris something. You know, so we had begun working on the challenges that the scheme faces. We are out of government. I don't know what the current government is doing. For me, if we are talking about challenges today, what I tell the government is, fix it. Fix it. They shouldn't be complaining. Today in this government, the government have been put in place to fix problems, but not to complain or to lay blame at the previous government. That's why we're voted out. So when you come, fix it. You are there to work on the problem.
But ultimately, we know that it became a campaign issue, which was dismissed by the NPP on the many campaign platforms. But we should be truthful to ourselves that the utilization of the scheme has increased.
No, the campaign team, yes.
The subscription or the subscription levels to have increased.
Yes. The campaign issue was in relation to the statement made by Nana Akufo-Addo that the scheme was collapsing. And what we said was that, but day in, day out, your members of parliament hold the hands of their constituents to go and register them. How can they be so callous to be registering people with a scheme which is dying? But you see, they've come to the vetting committee, and that place is like where you go and then you have to confess, a confessing chamber. When the minister designate for, and now the minister for health, Ajimameno.
Dr. Kweku Ajimameno, Mr. Kweku Ajimameno.
Yes, Ajimameno. When he was asked the question, is the scheme dying, or what's the word, collapsing? He said that's a harsh word. You can't say that. And that it is rather challenge. And I'm saying that after these challenges, we knew them. The people who put together the scheme had told us that after 5 years of commencement of the scheme, we'll have these challenges. So they should fix it, and it is their turn to fix it. Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. Okay, we have to conclude our discussions today with the finance minister. He says government committed to IMF deal, even though we're told that also they were hoping to have some renegotiations on the subject of the IMF. We know the intent of the bill, of the deal with the IMF, and the I believe the positive ramifications following us going through the systematic strict financial regime.
I don't think they can even withdraw from the scheme, the IMF deal.
Well, they said they want to renegotiate the terms if they can.
There's a review. It's periodic.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to use the review window to discuss some of the challenges that they are facing as a government, I think it's within their right to do that. The minister indicated that they were not going to reduce the energy levies or remove them. And I said that, wow, is this another deception? You have his minister of energy, Jaku, going to the vetting committee and saying that we'll reduce it. Then the man who has the purse says we'll not reduce it. So you begin to wonder whether these people are singing from the same hymn book. But again, it is left with the people of this country, Ghanaians who voted for them, to begin to see their nature. But the IMF deal is to bring policy credibility, is to help us to manage our finances well. But if as a government, they feel that they need the IMF to relax on certain regimes or certain procedures, it's within their right. There is a review period, and they can use that review period to ask if it is given.
The IMF deal in itself was criticized by the MPP campaign team during the electioneering, saying that because the government perhaps was weak in managing the finances of the country and so had to go through this process with the IMF, but also then constraining governments in many of the things that it could do as far as recruitment and perhaps also investment into certain areas of the economy. And that ultimately brought some challenges at the end of the day, they say.
I don't think that the IMF deal has brought about a blanket ban on employment. We just had national service being employed, recruitments in other sectors. So there's no IMF deal that says that don't recruit. They were using the IMF deal as a campaign tool. They said that we had mismanaged the economy, but they had forgotten that in this IMF deal, it is not the kind of deal where the IMF have imposed some things on us. We went to Senchi, and don't forget that they boycotted that Senchi forum. And we had already come out with our own measures to deal with our deficit. It was around 12%. So we had seen the problem, and we saw that we were going to deal with it. It was these same conclusions at Senchi that we went to the IMF and said that, look, this is what we intend to do. Can you back us? It is more or else, it is more of having the IMF giving us a backing and allowing the financial institutions to have confidence in us. But these measures were not IMF imposed. These were homegrown policies, and you heard we keep saying homegrown policy, homegrown policy. The payroll, the digitization of the payroll was our own solution to ghost names. So some of these things came from within, not from without. But again, let them fix it.
Well, thank you very much. And we've had Abraham Amale, but he's a legal practitioner. He's also a member of the NDC in the studio. And we're grateful that you've made your way into our studios today. Yeah. Will you be going to the court today?
No, with the kind of dressing, I can't go to court.
All right.
They'll say I'm naked before the judge.
You see, huh? All right. So we have to move on to other subjects. And the Ashanti Regional Commander of Police, Kofi Boakye, has been transferred to the police headquarters here in Accra following reshuffles or perhaps some announcement of new positions and appointments by the new IGP. And he will now be the Director of Research and Planning, position currently held by Rosebio Atenga. But what do the people of Kumasi make of his new appointment? We want to find out today from residents in Kumasi.
Most of the things I heard about Kofi Boakye was actually on the news. I think if anything I heard on the news was anything to go by, he actually brought a sense of diligence. He was able to, he had the zeal to fight crimes. Okay, and even though he had the zeal to conform to the laws and regulations of the country, in most of the times he was using common sense also. He wasn't just going by the law, mostly he was using common sense. And his zeal to fight crime was very, very profound. And also
he worked very well, especially in the area of crime combat. When he came here, the level of crime really reduced drastically. But aside that, the only thing that I remember that I can say was a bit of the bad side of him was when the incidents of a young man who was brutally beaten to death at Krofrum. Yeah, and his attempt to shield the people was one thing that I think he...
papa the kind of Ashanti region and media metetek nti ona akromfo high pa affordable housing no mo na scrum and no mo nwie no akromfo be hihye mbo ochichichi omo street light ni ade oni assemblyman for ne kan bomu ana afide na ahoto aba because first na woda na woyem hihye say akromfo ba so ana say ba Kofi Boakye bebre ni nyina ase na yesi so yehu say police station bi o ho na ye dada ni ade ndua kusu si we bubu bi wa o sisi baby a police for beda ni baby bebre ama police station na ye nice ama e feel say police for ni e namfo nti is a political reason bi dia yes rom say omun sanfa Kofi Boakye ne mla Kumasi na ye pe no.
Okay, first na Kofi Boakye mai no now do one city now they are shame now they are mom but I'm not buying no omujai udu ye check you can be bia sana o can you correct and sana ye jaw mo akọ be chire no esa be dada na udu this e bia the one city shame and sana e bia o mo jaw mo akọ o mo nje biom.
When Kofi Boakye is not in Ashanti region, I'm a taxi driver. The police people are standing on the road. I mean, I'm MTTU. They stand on the road, they collect one city. But when Kofi Boakye is coming in Ashanti region, the police people are standing on the road collecting 2 cedi from taxi drivers and 5 cedi from trotro driving. This is why I remember Kofi Boakye.